Welcome to Why We're Fans. I'm Duran, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Gennaro.
In all of our episodes, we cover the past, present, and the future of all your favorite NFL football teams.
We love hearing your stories, talking the NFL draft, and reminiscing about the good old days.
If you like the same, be sure to subscribe to this channel and like this episode. And leave a comment below if you want to answer any of our questions.
Follow us on Twitter to stay up to date on our latest interviews. And like we always say, win or lose, we're all fans. Enjoy this episode.
And welcome back to another episode of Why We're Fans. I am Gennaro. That's Duran right there. And we're here today with Mr. Clive Lovett. And he is, as you can see in his background, which I love, you got Peyton Manning and John Elway right there. So you can totally tell that he's a Denver Broncos fan. Clive, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing well. Thanks for the invite.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Well, shout out to Iron Ox for sure. Duran, drinking on anything particular?
Same exact thing.
What you got there, Clive? Iron Road Brewing.
Oh,
all
Iron
right.
Road Brewing. Okay.
Oh, that's awesome. I don't think I've ever been there. I definitely got to get that a visit.
I live in Kamloops, British Columbia, which is about 3 miles inland from Vancouver. And we've got 2 or 3 good kind of microbreweries popped up. So this is their Red Bridge Pale Ale.
Red Ale. So yours is, what was it one more time? Iron Ridge?
Road.
Iron Road?
Yeah.
And we're Iron Ox.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to the iron workers.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that logo too.
Yeah. Cheers.
Duran, how's it going today?
Sorry?
How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm excited. This is our second Broncos fan. I know we got free agency and stuff going through. I went up, did some research, got some new questions here for Clive, and I even got my dog right here next to me. His name's Bailey, which was kind of inspired by Champ Bailey, one of my favorite corners of all time. So I'm sure we'll dig into all that stuff here pretty soon.
Shout out to Champ.
Yeah, it definitely deserves his place in the Hall of Fame.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
I agree.
Well, all right, Clive, let us know where, everybody can find you, social media, plug any type of work you're working on, have at it.
Yeah, it's kind of neat because I'm starting a podcast, which is basically about why why people are fans of rock music.
Oh.
So you can find me at The Rock Spectrum on Instagram, Facebook, and therockspectrum.com. I haven't released any episodes yet. I've got some exciting people to interview. A guitarist of one of the top country artists is going to be on my show. I'm going to be interviewing him. I don't want to say who that person is yet, just in case it falls through, but it seems pretty solid. So it's pretty exciting. So that's therockspectrum.com. If anybody loves rock music out there, basically we tell stories about why we love the music.
Hell yeah, man. I mean, we both love music. I'd listen to a variety of music, whether it's classical to, rap to old school rap for sure. But, I definitely have my fair share of rock. Can you share with us your favorite rock band real quick?
My favorite rock band? Oh, there's so many, but I'd have to say Kansas are one of them.
Kansas? Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm old school, so I have to say like AC/DC. Something gets me in the mood.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Clive, we'll put all your links below so people can go ahead and click on through and follow Clive and see what he's up to.
Cheers. Oh, yeah. Appreciate that.
No problem.
Awesome. So you ready to dive in here, Duran?
Of course.
All right, Clive. Here it goes, man. We want to know, how did your story start of you being a Denver Broncos fan?
Well, it's probably when I was about a senior in high school, and my brother had a buddy. My brother's 2 years older than me, and on his final year of high school, he actually did his final year. He got on a program and ended up in Oregon at an American high school. And so he spent a year there, and he got into, got on the base. He's a good athlete, got on the baseball team, probably didn't see much field time, got on the football team as a defensive back. He tells a story about one of his first practices. He's covering the receiver, and, guy's running his route, the pass goes up, and the coach says, get him, and he just tackles the guy flat, ball's in the middle of the air. And then next, the coach is screaming at him, grabbing at the face mark. What the hell do you think you're doing? I don't know. You told me to get him.
Yeah.
But he became the most improved player, I guess, because he had never played before. But he came back, and my brother and I love all sports. We played all sports in England, and we started throwing a football around. And in that same year, there was a new channel, Channel 4, on TV in England, and they started showing on Monday nights highlights of all the Sunday games. Nice. So we were just watching it, and I think the first one we saw, it would be 1983. It was John Elway's rookie year, and there was just at the end they said, the Broncos had lost to the Seahawks. I think it was 31-7, and Elway had come off the bench to replace Steve DeBerg and kind of gave him a little spark. And then after the show, I said, okay, I didn't know who John Elway was. I didn't know all the fuss about the draft, about John Elway and how he refusing to go to Indianapolis and all that kind of stuff. But I said, okay, I'm going to be a Broncos fan.
Yeah.
Orange crush for life.
There you go.
And, so I became a Broncos fan. And I think my brother, I'm not sure who he picked because he kind of waffled between the Patriots and the Redskins. He'd probably say he was a Patriots fan right now. But, who knows, in a few years, he might be a Redskins fan again. So that's how I picked up the sport. And then from there, when I start enjoying something, I just, dive deep. I was buying the Sports Illustrated books that would have, every player and their stats in them. So I go through and look at all the Broncos players, Tom Jackson, linebacker, and all those guys from the 80s, and then I'd listen to games on a Sunday evening. They were beamed, like there's a lot of armed forces, or there were then in Germany, and they had the armed forces radio network beamed out of Germany that you could pick up. So I kind of dial in on the old stereo system and put my headphones on and hope that hopefully the Denver Broncos were playing. So I'd kind of dial in and listen to Broncos games whenever I could on the radio.
Oh, that's awesome.
That set me on a journey, and now I've been a bleeding orange since 1983.
You picked a great time to become a Broncos fan. I mean,
Exactly.
right there, John Elway coming in. We know the journey he's taken the Broncos on: 5 Super Bowl appearances, 2 Super Bowls won. I mean, was there ever a point during that, those first, what was it? Looks like first 5-6 years, maybe 7 years of Elway's career where you felt like he just wouldn't get over that hump?
It was, they were probably the Broncos and the Buffalo Bills at that time were probably the 2 best overall football teams, and they never won the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
I remember listening to The Drive on the radio, the 2-yard line against Cleveland. I remember listening to, I think it was a Halloween game against the Indianapolis Colts when maybe it was were they the Baltimore Colts? I don't know, but it was Eric Dixon was playing for them, and he ran for like 300 yards all over the Broncos. And I'm up late at night listening to that. But it was, the Super Bowls were really disappointing.
Yeah,
they beat Cleveland 3 times in a row to get to the Super Bowl. And they go 10-0 up against, I think it was Washington in the first one, and lost 42-10. I mean, they lose 55-10 to San Francisco, and then they lose a closer one to the Giants. But yeah, it was tough because I didn't think John Elway would win one.
Mm-hmm.
Not with Dan Reeves there anyway. And I like Dan Reeves, but it just seemed like that they weren't destined to win one, and maybe the time had passed Elway by.
And at this time you were in Canada, correct?
No, in the 80s I was, so I think 86, 87, 88, I think were the 3 years. 89, I came to Canada.
Okay. Did you know any other Broncos fans in your area? Someone that you can kind of talk football with and John Elway and things like that?
At the same time, football was just exploding in England. I got to see the Broncos play in England. They had one of the first preseason games was the Denver Broncos versus the Los Angeles Rams. It was at Wembley Stadium. And the Ricky Nattiel was, I think, Denver's first pick. He was a wide receiver. I don't know if you remember him. He was one of the three amigos, they called them.
Okay.
Vance Johnson, Mark Jackson, and Ricky Nattiel. He was a rookie. And then the Rams drafted a guy named Todd Light, who was a cornerback. And the play I remember from that was Elway throwing it. I'm assuming it was Elway. It was a preseason game. It could have been someone else. Just going for the end zone from about 40, 50 yards out. And then both coming up, and then Todd Light intercepting it in the end zone. That was the only play I can remember. But there wasn't anybody really to talk to there. My brother, we talked with my brother and a couple of other friends that were into football. But I say it was exploding. And at the same time, my brother started working in the city of London for an insurance company. And his buddy was working in a stockbrokers, and a football, not, like I'm using, whenever I say football, I am talking American football, not soccer.
Yeah.
A football league started up in London, and there were the London Ravens. And then there was a team made up called the Stock Exchange Stags. Because there were a lot of Americans working in the stock market. So my brother went on that team as a wide receiver. His buddy was a defensive end. Awesome. And the quarterback was an University of Wisconsin quarterback. I forget his name now. He's probably about, 35, 10 years past playing, but could still throw the ball better than anybody probably in London. I mean, he was talented. Mm-hmm. And then I played I didn't play. I kind of went out there and had a couple of practices, and I was a defensive back. And I have a couple of memories of that. But that, football was something that was becoming a big passion at the time.
Would you see a lot of people transition from like rugby to football? I know that rugby's big over there. You guys got the national team. They have a big rose on them. My friends played rugby, so I know a little bit about that. So do you see a lot of transition when it comes to that, or is it mainly like rugby or soccer over there?
There was what was it called? That they started a league. The NFL started a league. I can't remember what it's called. Like
Developmental League.
Sorry.
Was it developmental league?
It was a developmental league, and there was teams in Germany and London, and it didn't last very long, 2-3 seasons.
It's like NFL Europe, I think.
Yeah, and I didn't get to see any. I think I was by the time that started, I was probably over here, or in Canada. But rugby, I'm sure there were some rugby players that transitioned. That a lot of the players on in that kind of amateur league that my brother and his friend played in, played rugby or other sports. I remember there was a guy who was a rugby player, and they did a documentary about him, probably in England, or they showed it in the States, but he went out and actually tried out for the Kansas City Chiefs as a running back, and basically failed because he couldn't learn the playbook. He was a big athletic guy, could run with the ball, but just didn't, he couldn't believe how much players had to know where they should be, what the plays were, so he couldn't get the playbook, and he was cut.
Yeah, I know you see a lot of people now. They go into that developmental league and they go and try out for the teams like a combine, and they get selected by some teams. Like you got Santino Holmes I think he was from Australia. He got picked up by the Jets, and then you got Christian Wade. I think he grew up in London actually, and he actually plays for the Buffalo Bills. I'm pretty sure he's on the practice squad, but I remember him.
Lawrence Bohringer, the Vikings wide receiver.
Lawrence Bohringer, yeah, that's right. And then
Moritz, I think it's M.
And then you had no, I don't think he played rugby. He did play rugby, but he was more of an Olympian discus player. But you had Lawrence Okereke, he played as well. So
it's definitely a few Australians, and I know the host of the TV show that I mentioned at the beginning, the kind of highlight show that they had in England. His name was Mick Luckhurst, and he actually was a kicker for the Atlanta Falcons.
Okay,
and he finished, retired there, and you got this British guy that played in the NFL, so he was an automatic choice to be, as a co-anchor for this show.
Yeah,
nice.
I definitely got to go out there to London to watch a game for sure, whether it's rugby, soccer, or what have you, to see all those like hooligans out there just like singing and whatnot. It seems so awesome. It's like that environment seems so great. So you definitely see when the NFL any NFL team goes out there to London and plays, you just see that stadium just packed, and it's awesome to see. And I definitely want to, experiment that.
Oh yeah,
environment.
the basketball, baseball, football. I've been in Canada since '89. It's just exploded in Europe, and it's marketed really well. So I mean, they get thousands of fans for games now.
Have you been lucky enough to see the Broncos play live?
No, only in the preseason game in England. Okay. I as a kid, because my music, I was always into the American rock scene, Van Halen, Sammy Hagar, and all that kind of stuff. Awesome. I actually wanted to go live in the US. Mm-hmm. That was my dream. I want to go live in the US, in Denver, watch the Broncos play, or Boston, because I'm a similar thing happened. I'm a Red Sox fan as well.
So I'm a Yankee fan.
Yeah, I know. I heard that. I refused to wear, like when I worked in the city of London, I wouldn't wear a pinstripe suit.
Never.
But the closest I've got was actually on my way to San Antonio from Vancouver. I had to land in Denver's airport there. But yeah, one day. I'm sad that I didn't get to the original Mile High Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you get to go see them live, I think that's all that matters. And I hope you achieve that goal for sure. I mean, I know me and Duran's got goals to go to different stadiums other than our home team, with me being at Levi and with Duran being at Jerry's World for sure. I know he's been there, I've been there, but we definitely would like to visit, and Denver's on my bucket list for sure.
Probably the first game I'll get to see them play is if they ever get scheduled against the Seahawks, because that's just a 5-hour drive down to Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
From where I
am. Yeah, I hope they do, man. I hope they're on their schedule.
Thanks.
So what's your game day set up now? Do you watch the game alone? Do you go down to a bar, watch with any other fellow Broncos fans?
Usually I watch it alone. My wife doesn't particularly like sports on the TV too much. She's not a big sports person, so having something on TV for 3 hours if she's upstairs and around. Mm-hmm. So, but I always watch a Broncos game. If they're now I have I don't know, in Canada now all the games are streamed through a company called DAZN or Desean, DAZN. Mm-hmm. It's an app, so I have that app for the English Premier League, and so I can watch any game and stream it to my TV, which Perfect. Is great because they don't always cover the Denver games up here, mm-hmm. unless they're playing someone like the Patriots or someone like that.
Yeah, unless it's prime time, they won't show it.
Yeah, it's basically turn it on, watch the game, and but I have a few friends that are football fans, but it'll only be the playoff games, maybe where we get together,
mm-hmm.
the Super Bowl, something like that. But yeah,
there you go. Do you have any memorabilia as far as attire goes, apparel,
jerseys? Your first jersey?
Yeah, you got your first jersey.
I have a Broncos jersey, which I probably need to lose a few pounds to get back into. I don't know whether I might be red in the face if I was wearing it right now. So
who is it?
Sorry,
who is the jersey?
Who's the jersey? Smith. I put on the back.
Okay.
So I was a big Dennis Smith fan. I don't know whether you remember him. He was a safety for the Broncos in their prime years in the 80s.
I was thinking Rod Smith.
No, Rod Smith. Too. Rod Smith was the wide receiver.
Yeah,
but Dennis Smith going further back was defensive back for them in Dan Reeves' years, and I think he was out of USC.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah,
he wore number 49.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I come. I say the jerseys. Probably collecting dust up there right now. And I got a couple of baseball hats, around, and
mm-hmm. There you go,
stuff like that. But
who do you consider the Broncos' number one rival?
Oh, the Raiders.
Yeah.
You automatically, you're a Broncos fan, you automatically hate the Raiders.
Yeah,
and dislike the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wonder if it switches when one team starts doing a little bit better. The Chiefs are on top, especially the last 2 years. And sometimes it switches over where you just start hating them a little bit more.
Or even when they switch cities, like, do you hate them even more when they leave California, whether in LA, Oakland, or Las Vegas. Like,
Yeah, no,
You hate 'em
I
more.
think that, yeah, it's definitely. I mean, now that the Las Vegas Raiders takes the shine off, a little bit. They're just a shit team somewhere else now, though. But, like, you have to hate them. I mean, the whole, yeah. Anyway, but Kansas City are doing well right now, but for years they were a nothing team. I mean, they had Montana playing there, and they had some good teams, but they weren't anybody feared. So I think this is just a blip in the road.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
I think
they weren't.
I think Mahomes did well again this year, but I
Yes.
think people are reading it, know how to play against them, and I'm hoping anyway.
Yeah.
That's it for me in this category. G, you got anything else?
No, nothing really on this one. No.
Well, we're going to move on a little bit. We're going to want to guess your favorite Broncos player of all time. G, we might know this one already, but you can give it a shot first. Go ahead.
Well, I know he mentioned Dennis Smith, but he's got John Elway in that background right there.
Yep.
I know alongside with the sheriff, Peyton Manning, but I got to go with John Elway, who was also drafted by the Yankees, man. So I'm going to go with John Elway. For sure.
Well, are you,
Duran, go ahead.
Duran, you gonna?
That was definitely going to be my guess, but I'll stick with my guns and go with Champ Bailey.
I would have to say John Elway was, but and I don't want to get into politics and things like that. But
yeah,
he, like his, it's like who was the pitcher that the Kurt Schilling, like Kurt Schilling did, help
bloody sock
World Series for Boston.
Yeah,
but he would never be my favorite player. I mean, and John Elway, when you read things about him and his political views and stuff like that, it's like, probably the greatest player of all time for the Broncos, or definitely. And he would be one of those quarterbacks that if you had the ball on the 2-yard line in any game and you went in history, who would you want? It would be like probably Joe Montana. I think Joe Montana and John Elway, even over probably the greatest of all time, Tom Brady. Because of their ability to maneuver and spark things.
Yeah.
But no, I'll give you a clue. There's two, and they're both slow. They were both kind of slow possession receivers.
Slow.
And one was tough as nails.
Dang, he wasn't a receiver. I was going to say Shannon Sharp.
No,
Shannon Sharp was a tight end.
Played with Shannon Sharp.
I was going to go with Ed McCaffrey.
Ed McCaffrey, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, I loved
that guy
Ed
looked like he had no
McCaffrey.
pads on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there was a guy years before him, a guy named Steve Watson.
Steve Watson. Wow, what a name.
I don't know Steve Watson.
Yeah, he was your typical slow receiver, possession type.
The first thing I remember about Ed McCaffrey, I'm sorry to cut you off. First thing I remember about Ed McCaffrey is that he always wore cleats a size too small because he loved the cleats hugging his feet, and he would cut the big toe out and get his cleats spatted because he said it's actually what a lot of the soccer players did, and he would move faster even though he wasn't necessarily like the fastest guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I try to do that too, and I mean, I ended up with like blisters on my feet. I couldn't do that. Like my toes were broken pretty much at the end of the day. But yeah, man, Ed McCaffrey. Well, I wouldn't have guessed that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I like those. Sorry, go ahead, Duran.
No, you go ahead. You talk about them.
I like those lunch pail guys that just bring it. I mean, Shannon Sharp's awesome as well. I mean, there's so many guys. Like I'm really disappointed that they got rid of Philip Lindsay, because he was that kind of guy who just came to work and did his job.
Yeah,
and didn't need any pats on the back.
Yeah, undrafted, a Denver guy, worked his way up the roster.
Yeah,
and when I saw that he moved on to the Texans, I thought the same thing. I was like, there's going to be a lot of disappointed Denver Broncos fans for that.
Yeah. he had that breakaway speed as well. If he hit.
Oh,
the
yeah.
ball. So yeah.
I
Yep.
definitely loved how you put that too. That bring the lunch pail to work in that blue collar type of worker.
Yeah.
I think that's so super. I think that's awesome. I mean, Terrell Davis was definitely the epitome of that. Undrafted out of Georgia, he made his name through special teams, and look where he's at now.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. That's a good way to put it.
I mean, there's so many. It's hard to choose your favorite. I mean, you could go through the.
You're spoiled.
Yeah, you go through the eras and choose one, but as for quarterbacks, I mean, there's only been one quarterback apart, that's been a Denver Bronco. I mean, Peyton
Tim
Manning
Tebow for sure. I mean,
Peyton
John
Manning was
Elway.
rented, for a few years, and did a great job. But it'd be interesting to see how Drew Lock does, if he does well at all.
Is there one Ed McCaffrey moment that kind of sticks out to you?
I couldn't picture one. I couldn't tell you one game or a specific game, but I mean the times that he just caught the ball and was just killed
Mm-hmm.
and lay on the floor, and the trainers had to come out. I'm sure that guy played with concussions.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I would like to have seen Christian McCaffrey. I mean, we didn't have a good enough draft pick to get him, but I would like to have seen him. I'd like to see him in orange and blue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I know that somebody put out an article. I think it was Trevor Sikkema of the Draft Network saying if it was, I believe it was either Australian rules, whether I think it's the rugby type of thing where if your dad played for that team for a certain period of time, you have to go play for that team. So there was an article out where it said, okay, Ed McCaffrey put in his years and time with the Denver Broncos. So Christian McCaffrey would have to go play for the Denver Broncos. And like you see Denver Broncos Twitter go crazy. Like if we had him, we'd win all these Super Bowls, this and the other. It's like, well, you guys still need a quarterback. You guys haven't had one consistent since probably John Elway. So
it's like the literal sense of grandfathered in. You're pretty fathered in. Yeah,
exactly.
I'm watching. I'm just looking back at a couple Ed McCaffrey highlights right now, and one that came up. It's probably not his best highlight ever. It's when he got hit and broke his leg. It was against the Giants.
Yeah, Giants. Yeah.
But just like you said, this guy still caught the ball.
Yeah.
He gets hit going across the middle, and of course, as we know, the rules are today. That's not what the rules were back then. He takes a shot up high, gets bent back, breaks his leg, still catches the ball. So yeah, those are the type
team
of
that drafted him too.
Yeah, team that drafted him.
Oof. Damn.
Do you remember when Ed McCaffrey came over from? Is actually San Francisco.
Yeah, he won a Super Bowl with the Niners, and he went to Denver.
1-2 more.
Yeah.
And yet, I think he's considered a Denver Bronco player.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would consider that too.
It's amazing. Like Champ Bailey, I think he went into the Hall of Fame as a Bronco.
Yeah.
Which I don't like. I think you should go into the Hall of Fame as Ed McCaffrey.
Yeah.
And then you have the teams listed below you.
Yeah.
You don't need to go in as a Denver Bronco, or you just go in as, hey, you're an awesome football player.
Yep. Do you remember though that switch when Ed McCaffrey came over? Do you remember being excited about it? Do you just remember him being another guy?
I think just another guy, because I think he's really started to put up the numbers with the Broncos.
Yeah.
I don't remember any excitement about getting Ed McCaffrey. There was probably more excitement when Jake Plummer came over. And
I love Jake Plummer.
Yeah, I know, exactly. And he turned out to be a flop,
Yeah.
Yep. In San Francisco, McCaffrey only had 131 yards that Super Bowl year, and he didn't have over. It looks like his season high was 610 until he teamed up with John Elway and the Broncos. 97, 98, 99, and 2000. He had all over 1,000 yards.
So they had Shannon Sharp as a tight end, and I'm trying to think who.
Rod Smith, wasn't
it? Rod Smith, of course. Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned Rod Smith, and you have to love that guy.
Yep.
Oh yeah, for sure. Did I know McCaffrey went to Stanford? Did he play with Elway there?
I don't know. I don't know how.
I'll get my producer to look that up.
I don't know how old they are. But on that same team, of course, Terrell Davis. He was one of those guys that I had on my guess your favorite player list. But yeah, I know there is some controversial about Terrell Davis getting into the Hall of Fame. I'm sure you're going to say he deserves to get there. But do you kind of think that the longevity part he didn't hit that one check mark?
I don't know whether he just, I mean, like as a Broncos fan, he's a great Bronco and he was a great running back.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the Hall of Fame is a longevity thing.
Yeah.
I've always thought that the Hall of Fame should have, you know, like, well, they have teams of the 80s, teams of the 90s, teams of those, you know, and he makes the Hall of Fame for the 90s or, you know, but you know, he won 2 Super Bowls, put up good numbers. You know, you could say the same about, you know, there's was it Gale Sayers wasn't around too long, was he? In Chicago, and he made it. He's a Hall of Famer. And other people that, like, you know, are in the Hall of Fame that didn't play for that long.
Yep.
But if you have the impact on the game, maybe.
Yeah, we just had the same conversation with Jimmy Smith versus, you know, he has better numbers than Calvin Johnson, Michael Irvin, who's a Cowboy who, you know, his career ended a little bit early, but both of those guys are Hall of Famers and Jimmy Smith is not, but they, you know, they have similar careers, but just not on the right team. It kind of seems like
that. Yeah. I think that plays a lot. I mean, definitely Terrell is on the right team that you can give the push, but Jimmy Smith wasn't. I mean, of course, Michael Irvin was on a great team. I mean, Troy Aikman passing to him and Emmitt Smith in the backfield. You know,
Can you think of any players that you feel like were really underrated during their time at the Broncos?
I feel like Ed McCaffrey was underrated.
Yeah. Carl Mecklenburg, if you know what you remember him.
I don't.
I think he was drafted in the 12th round out of Minnesota. He was a linebacker. And he played in those 80s, 90s, and they called him the albino rhino because he was just white and you know, just blonde hair. And he was he's drafted out of Minnesota. I think he was like a defensive end but he played middle linebacker and he just stuffed it up middle. Steve Atwater, I think, got recognition, but maybe not as much at the time. I'm trying to think if there were any other safeties at that time that were, you know, getting more publicity than him. But I'll never forget I don't know whether you know, there was a Christian Okoye, the Nigerian Nightmare.
Yes.
There was a hit. They were playing that them. I think it might have been on Monday Night Football, and Atwater just stopped him cold. You know,
I just looked up Carl Mecklenburg, and definitely 6-time Pro Bowler, 3-time All-Pro. I mean, this guy, he played from 83 to 94.
He would have been undrafted too. He was drafted in the 12th round.
Yeah, drafted in the 12th round.
He would be undrafted now for sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
310th overall. But
then there was another defensive end called Rulon Jones. But he probably went to a few Pro Bowls. But more recently, I don't know. I think who's the cornerback that they just lost? Chris
Harris.
Chris Harris.
Yeah.
For
Chris
his
Harris Jr.
You know, for his first few years, he was very underrated.
Yeah, he's great.
Well put.
You know, they had Talib playing and, you know, various other players playing. You know, they had the superstar cornerback, and then there was Chris Harris, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
but he had his role playing there. He played a lot of the nickel and slot guys, and he is probably the best one in the league when he was doing it.
Yeah.
At that time during the Broncos. One guy that I did have a note on was Elvis Dumervil. I mean, he's a recent guy. He's number 5 in sacks. He had 63 in 91 games. Which, you know, is pretty damn good. Number 6 for tackles for loss, number 2 on QB hits, all pro bowler type of guy. And, you know,
wasn't he the one that was failed to resign because like that faxing shit, right?
Was that
Yeah,
it? I do
so,
remember
yeah,
the
and
fax scandal.
who did he? I forget who he ended up with, but he hasn't
Baltimore.
done.
Baltimore, then he went to the Niners.
Yeah,
and
yeah, he didn't do
then-
much after he left the Broncos. So I
No.
don't, maybe a little bit for Baltimore for the first year or so.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I think he did better at ball. I don't remember him for San Francisco. Probably no more than that.
I honestly like. I wish I was. I wish I was old enough to honestly remember Steve Atwater.
Yeah.
And it's funny when we told our older brother about, we're going to interview a Denver Broncos fan. He goes, oh man, he was pounding the table. You talk about Steve Atwater. You got to talk about Steve Atwater. I'm like, man, we don't really know much about him. So you being able to see him, or honestly, you said that you listened to the radio, like that fear that number 27 had, like the only thing I remember is like old school highlights.
Yeah.
But like I'd still watch it because the fear that he impacted in receivers. I mean, like Duran said, you can't hit players like you did back then. The way that Steve Atwater hit, it was shit. I can imagine. So, I mean, I'm just want to ask you as a Denver Broncos fan, how was it watching Steve Atwater, like one of the best safeties? I mean, I'm a 49er fan. I don't remember watching, Ronnie Lott. I was too young to remember.
Yeah.
But how was it like watching, Steve Atwater?
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's a guy that's similar to that now, that domineering safety.
You can't play like that now.
Yeah.
You can't, but
he was pretty big as well, 6'3", 218.
yeah.
I think the closest guy to that was probably Sean Taylor,
Okay.
but I think Sean Taylor was a better athlete than that. I mean, that's not hating on him.
Yeah, he was definitely, I mean, he came out of Arkansas, I believe, Atwater, and people thought he might be too slow, too big and too slow to play NFL safety. So he probably came out with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. And but when the ball went over the middle, you were expecting the receiver to be flouting his back.
I didn't get to watch Atwater, but what about Cam Chancellor? Is that a good comparison?
Yeah. I mean, those Seattle defensive backs, and they kind of they're vicious.
Yeah.
I would say that would be the modern day version. Where you just if you've got a ball, as a receiver high in the air, you don't want to catch it.
Yeah.
That's a hospital pass right there.
But even back then, if you didn't catch it, you'd still be hit.
Oh yeah.
So.
Yep.
But he, like that Denver Bronco defense was pretty solid all around. So Steve Atwater was definitely a leader on that team.
Anything else for favorite player?
No, nothing else. But I just loved how we went from Ed McCaffrey to Steve Atwater to like everybody. We touched like everybody. I mean, like I said, you're so spoiled with like all these great players. I mean, Duran with his Cowboys, myself with my 49ers, but yourself with the Denver Broncos, which is this episode is about. Like, I get so excited because like I don't remember like these great players so much. Like I remember John Elway being spun around in the Super Bowl against the Packers, but I don't remember the glory years, like what it was like for him to hold out. Like I don't remember that, so I love that. Like you got to see that and you got to hear that, and that's so great, man.
Yeah, it was tough through the 80s when they were just going to the Super Bowl and losing. The only worse thing than being a Broncos fan was being a Buffalo Bills fan. But then when Mike Shanahan came in as a coach, and put in a system that allowed, like the criticism of Dan Reeves was Dan Reeves had a system that you played in, and then in the last 5 minutes it's okay, John, go do your stuff. There were no but whereas Mike Shanahan put in a system that allowed him to roll out, use his legs, throw on the run, and of course, but then you had a quality running back, whereas I don't think Dan Reeves, really had that. He had a guy named Sammy Winder, who would get his 1,000 yards, but he'll get them 3 yards at a time.
Yeah, pounder.
Yeah,
pounder for sure.
Well, let's move on. We're talking about coaches a little bit. Do you have a favorite Broncos coach of all time?
Do I have a? You have to go with Shanahan.
Yeah, I was
know?
thinking this. I was thinking the same thing there. He's there for 14 years. Of course, the back-to-back Super Bowls.
Yeah.
And he was 2 for 2. I know Dan Reeves was probably at the top of that list as well, but unfortunately,
I like Dan Reeves a lot. I did.
I
don't think he. I mean, he was tight end for the Dallas Cowboys, I believe.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and he's I believe he's a Hall of Famer, but he should be if he isn't, because he was a good tight end for the Dallas Cowboys, and then he coached there in Atlanta as well. Just a good coach, and I don't think he gets the recognition he deserves. But Shanahan came in. Here's a question: who do you think my most? I'm not saying, I tell my daughter not to say the word hate, but who is my
least favorite,
most disliked?
I got to go with Josh McDaniel.
Me too.
Got it.
Yeah, the experiment. I remember that.
That guy was a tool.
He came in, started with Kyle Orton, ended up, that's when the Tebow era, was going on. He only made it a year and a half, so you didn't have to deal with him for too long.
I mean, he thought he could turn Tebow into an NFL quarterback.
Yeah.
That's how arrogant he was. And no knocks on Tim Tebow.
Yeah.
But he wasn't an NFL quarterback, and just spend that higher pick on him, just insane.
They traded up to get him too. And one thing that annoyed me is that watching Tim Tebow at Florida, he one hell of an athlete, one hell of a leader. Like I remember his speech after the loss to Arkansas, and that's now engraved in University of Florida Gators history. But when you're drafting a guy of that size and that athletic, what do you do? Like, you got Taysom Hill. Like, the Saints are so hard-headed, they won't move him to tight end. I really wish that Tim Tebow would have moved to tight end, because that guy is just an athlete and you want him on the field. Yeah, he tried with baseball. It didn't really work out. How you doing? Keep it moving. But at the same time, like, just imagine the career you would have in football if you were to just change positions, stop being so hard-headed. I know you want to prove everybody wrong, but dude, go to a different position and you'd work out great.
Yeah. But I think McDaniels wanted him as a quarterback as well.
Yeah.
He thought he could turn him into a mobile running back quarterback, But.
Yep. A couple things I did want to bring up is for Mike Shanahan, he was a really good drafter at the first half of his career. I looked through, there's a lot of guys to name off, but he had 10 Pro Bowlers that he drafted in 6 years. I don't know if that's just because, they won the Super Bowl, those guys became popular or whatnot, but towards the end, it just kind of fell off. I mean, I kind of judge, especially head coaches that have control of the roster and things like that. I judge them off of their draft classes a lot. And I mean, those first couple draft classes, that's what's probably won those Super Bowls for you guys.
Yeah. And I don't know how much control he had when he came in on the draft, and who the GM was at the time. But I know Shanahan, took a tighter grip on the team. And I think it was his undoing in the end. But you can't, as a Denver Broncos fan, you have to, I mean, he brought 2 Super Bowls to Denver.
Yep.
And with a great team. But yeah, I can't really, I mean, geez, the toughest thing was replacing the quarterback.
Yeah, the quarterback.
And I don't think they tried it in the draft, but I don't think I can't remember them going high, because they were a pretty solid team. So they were never going to get the number 1, draft pick, whoever quarterback, but I can't remember how many times they tried to draft a quarterback, because after Elway,
Greasy,
you had Plummer, you had Kyle Orton, you had a number of these people that they tried to trade for to come in. And they didn't. I don't think they tried to draft a quarterback.
Greasy was one of them.
Yeah, and I didn't mind Greasy, but I think he was a little bit soft. I think he he came in a couple of times as a backup and played pretty well. But he had to live up to his dad's legacy.
Yep.
And that was never going to happen.
Yeah. One thing he didn't have trouble doing was producing those running backs. I mean,
love it.
Looking through Clinton Portis, Reuben Drones, Mike Anderson, Tatum Bell.
Who that trade with Portis and Bailey, that's who he ended up with, was Tatum Bell.
That's right. Yeah. They traded Portis to Washington and got Champ Bailey in return. That was a good trade.
Yep. And all those guys, 1,000-yard running backs, other guys behind him coming in producing as well. But that's where his strength really was producing those rushing offenses.
He had that zonal blocking system.
Yep.
And I think you could have plugged in any running back and they'll probably got 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
In there, not knocking like Clinton Portis, I think was a little bit special in his early years.
But yeah, and I know G probably knows this better than either one of us. The Shanahan coaching tree just continues to this day. Jim Haslett, Gary Kubiak, Matt LaFleur, Anthony Lynn, Sean McVay, Raheem Morris, of course, his son, Kyle Shanahan, Art Shell, but so many great offensive minds, dudes that just had a lot of success in the NFL.
And Gary Kubiak, he was the backup to John Elway in Denver. And I remember him coming in. I don't know what his record was as a quarterback for Denver offhand, but it seemed like when he came in, he won games. He was one of those guys that could have been a starter on some, not of the top teams, but he came in and did a job and did it well. He knew the system, obviously, and he was obviously very intelligent. He went on to be, I think, a good coach in the NFL. And I'm sad that he had his health issues, because I would like to have seen him, with the Broncos a little bit longer as a coach.
Yeah.
But yeah, he talking about favorite players, as a backup quarterback, he's a guy that, that I admired,
Yeah, he was in the NFL for 9 years, only got 5 starts.
Yeah.
So he never really got the chance to be that guy, it seems like. No. But he went 3-2 in those years. But he came in, he did a little bit each year.
Yeah. Be tough starting behind John Elway. You're not going to get.
Of course, yeah. We see those guys every year, just career backup guys that kind of come in, do their little bit of their little job, and then that's it. So Gary Kubiak was that guy back then.
Yeah. Definitely.
G, anything else for coaches?
Nothing else for favorite coach. I mean, I'm just kind of curious about the least favorite coach. No, when McDaniels was hired, what was your initial feeling?
Well,
I think that says it all.
It was a project, and I didn't think he was ready. But at the time, I like giving young guys the opportunity. The LA Rams did it with McVay. It seems like, there's this carousel of, coaches that get into positions. It happens all the time, Marty Schottenheimer in Cleveland, then he goes to Kansas, and then, and then you've got, who's the Green Bay coach? Where's the old Green Bay coach? He's somewhere now, and
Mike McCarthy's at Dallas.
Mike Dallas, and you just get this musical chairs, and one falls down, let's fill it with another guy. And I think it takes some balls to go, I'm going to go with a guy that's unproven.
Yep.
So, it's hard to think back to that because, you think, my memory is tainted by what he did.
Well, he's coming in from.
I think I was probably excited at the time. I think most Broncos fans were probably excited. I mean, you've got a guy that's worked with Tom Brady, successful franchise, and you're bringing him in. Yeah. I think pretty quickly it fell flat, though.
Yeah,
that's very true.
So,
all right, let's move on a little bit. We want to know your earliest memory being a Broncos fan. Is there one thing that kind of stands out to you?
Probably the drive, that's NFL law now.
Yeah.
And there's a, I can't remember, I think it's one of the offensive linemen was quoted as saying it, I think they're on the 2-yard line with about 5 minutes and 30 seconds left. And was it in Cleveland? I think it was in Cleveland because it was just muddy as hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, 86.
And apparently Elway ran up to the huddle and goes, "Okay, boys, we've got them right where we need them." And I remember I can pick. There was a short dump pass to start off with, another dump pass, and there was, they worked their way up the field, and then there was one where I think Steve Watson. It wouldn't have been Steve Watson. It would have been, he wasn't playing at the time. One of the wide receivers anyway. Was in motion, and Elway was in a shotgun that hit the receiver's butt and kind of ricocheted a little bit, and Elway just grabbed it with one hand, picked it up, and then completed the pass.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, that drive was just a thing of beauty. And then, of course, the following year, it was followed up by what they call the fumble, where they play Cleveland again, and Ernest Biner just has to go in from the 1-yard line, and he fumbles. They're probably the ones that stick out because they're big, huge moments, I could probably put on the drive now and watch that game,
Oh yeah.
It's just a piece of great football.
Yep. It's always on YouTube. You can go back and watch that, baby.
Yeah.
It's on there. The first Falcons memory that I remember is the 1999, the Super Bowl versus the Falcons.
Yeah.
And to me, that just stood out. I mean, what really stood out to me was the Falcons, the Dirty Bird. They were doing that thing, Jamal Anderson and those guys. And I remember being like at a kids play area that's here where we live called Tube Town. And my mom being like, you can go play with the kids. And I remember saying to her, no, I want to stay and watch the Super Bowl. And that was the very first Super Bowl that I remember watching. And,
I remember because I was like, was it 86? So I don't know, I like 2021 or something like that when the Super Bowls went. And I went to my brother had moved out, and I was still living at home. I think he started working in the city of London after doing some college, and I got a drive round to my brother's place. My brother was living with his girlfriend. And he left early in the game, and like I'm a diehard. I don't care whether we're losing 55-10. As long as there's time on the clock,
Yeah.
And then I'm about 5-6 miles from where I live. It's like, and then you got to remember 8 hours difference, so it's probably like 1 o'clock in the morning now, or 2 o'clock in the morning, and I don't have a ride home because my brother's left. So watch them lose like 55-10. Against San Francisco, and then have to walk home was pretty. And then it's January as well, so it's cold outside. So
added some insult to injury.
Yeah.
G, you got anything for first memory?
I mean, I got tons. I mean, we spoke about it earlier with McCaffrey and the small shoe. Then you got TD busting out the patent, Mile High Salute. But one play that keeps on recurring in my mind is definitely Terrell Davis. I think they were playing a preseason game in Tokyo, and he's like, man, I didn't expect to play. I thought I was going to get cut, so I just went out there and said, fuck it. I'm just going to go out there, balls out. He goes down the field on special teams and just lays the hat. I think they're playing in San Francisco. Lays the hat, and he makes his name. And from that, they're like, oh, okay, we know this guy. Let's keep on playing him. And then he turns out to the player he is today. I know he battled with migraines and everything, which is unfortunate. But, yeah, I mean, TD, when I think of the Broncos, I automatically go to TD for sure.
Yeah. Rod Smith was on that kickoff team as well. I saw Rod Smith was like, I was the first guy to congratulate him because I was also on kickoff.
You said the Mile High Salute there.
Yeah.
LaDainian Tomlinson played for San Diego. And when they were beating Denver in Denver, he did the Mile High Salute in Denver.
Ooh.
And I just wish freaking Terrell Davis had run over the flat.
Yeah.
Like that, and he talked, that was the standing on, was it Terrell Owens who went and stood on the star when he was in San Francisco?
Yep. Couple guys have tried.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I love LaDainian Tomlinson. That doesn't seem very LaDainian Tomlinson like. So I don't remember that one.
Yeah, he did that. He did a Mile High Salute, and but that San Diego, another team that I dislike.
Of course, but they're at the bottom of that division list.
Yeah, I know. Well,
Yeah.
Phillip Rivers as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So moving on a little bit, do you have an absolute favorite memory being a Broncos fan? I mean, it could be one of those Super Bowl wins, a comeback, a classic play, a draft class.
It'd definitely be the first Super Bowl win.
The first one?
When you've been to 4 Super Bowls and you haven't won one. I mean, I don't remember the 1977 one against Dallas at all. But having going through 3 where you lose them badly, and then you're going in against I mean, and I think it'd be interesting to see who were the favorites for Super Bowl, but I mean, Denver were a hot team back then in the 80s.
Yeah.
But going into that Green Bay game, I think the odds were probably a little bit closer. I mean, you got Brett Favre playing, and so beating Green Bay was, the helicopter moment where Elway goes over. I think that was the game where Terrell Davis had a migraine as well.
Mm-hmm. He was blinded at the 2-yard line.
Yeah, just go in there and put the helmet on.
Yep.
I think Davis says that Shanahan said, just go in there, we won't give you the ball. And they kept on handing him the ball,
He said, but they won't believe it if you're not in there, that we're not going to run the ball. Yeah. No, that was classic.
Yeah.
Elway versus Favre. I don't remember that one, but it seems like it was a better game than the Falcons one, just from score wise.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys won 31-24. So that one definitely stands out to you more than the Falcons victory.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
do you think it's just because you guys were
Reeves
waiting after those 3 Super Bowl losses?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a chance to finally win one. And the Atlanta one was kind of bittersweet because I believe Dan Reeves was coaching Atlanta in that one. And he was the ex-Broncos coach.
Yeah.
And he's a I said before, he's a class act. So, but definitely that first Super Bowl has to be the highlight.
You got it.
Although I did like them beating up on Carolina.
The Carolina one.
And Cam Newton as well.
Yep. That one was a Peyton Manning, of course. I think what also made that one a good one is you guys got to beat the Patriots in the game before in the AFC Championship game. So when you finally got there, and then Von Miller, as we know, went crazy, 2.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, the infamous Cam not going for the fumble video type thing. But yeah, that was a great one. I don't remember the other 2 Super Bowls, but to me, if I was a Broncos fan, I think, man, it doesn't get much better than that.
No, that was against Cam Newton and what was supposed to be it was supposed to be a better game than it was.
Yeah.
And the Broncos just came out and smothered. The game plan on defense was just perfect.
Yeah, that was their almost perfect season. I think they went 15-1 that year. Cam Newton MVP. I mean, I thought Carolina was going to win, and I actually went and saw Carolina play that year in person, and I was rooting for them. So I at least could say, hey, I watched the Super Bowl team play that year, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, that 98 Super Bowl, I remember that one the most because this is the music fan of me. I remember the halftime show was Boys to Men, Smokey Robinson.
Oh God, I forgot that one.
The Temptations, and I want to say it was like Queen Latifah.
Oh my God, that's horrible for football.
No, I know, but the thing is, I remember
too many slow songs.
Well, it's the '90s R&B. That's what we were raised in. So Boys to Men is automatically up there. So I remembered it.
Give me you too.
I don't remember many of the halftime shows. I didn't watch Weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't watch that. It was just sorry, I've got better things to do than watch you.
Yep.
And it's not that I dislike his music, and but I don't remember Boys to Men. The Temptations. I mean, Temptations is probably the 5th rendition of the Temptations. But, But yeah, I don't remember that one at all. I don't remember any of the halftime shows for the Denver Broncos games.
Yeah, they're always way too long, so I take that as an opportunity to do a couple other things because I'll know I'll be right back watching the game.
Yeah.
One game that I did want to bring up, I don't know if it's one of your favorite memories, but it's one of my favorite memories just playing against the Broncos, even though the Dallas Cowboys lost. It was 2013, Cowboys versus Broncos. It was Romo shootout with Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
In that game, there was over 1,000 yards of total offense, 99 total points. And in classic Tony Romo Dallas Cowboys fashion, he ended the game with an interception that you guys ended up winning. Do you remember that game?
Yeah, I do. I didn't know who was going to win that game.
Yeah, exactly. Whoever had the ball last.
Yeah, I mean, they're the games that it's great to win.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that whoever has the ball last, basically. But I remember that. Yeah, it's like I don't remember the details of the game, but I remember watching the game and just going, "Holy, yeah." I mean, and Tony Romo, I like Tony.
Yeah,
I think he got a lot of I think he got a lot of bad publicity in parts of Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
If there was a quarterback that I kind of wished to won a Super Bowl, apart from Jim Kelly at Buffalo, Tony Romo would be up there for sure.
I agree with you on that one. That would have been a lifesaver for me.
But
I'd like
to have seen him win it with another team apart from Dallas. Because there were rumors that Denver wanted him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like when he before on that last year he was in, Denver actually went after, they wanted Romo as to come over and be a quarterback, and then he decided not to play and went into the the
broadcasting
booth. Yeah.
And now he's making tons of money to not get killed by 300-pound men. So might have been a good decision by him.
and he's a good color guy as well.
Yeah, he's one of my favorites, if not my favorite for sure.
The first time I remember the first time listening to him, he basically was calling plays before they came up.
Yeah.
Yep. G, anything for favorite memory? You got anything here?
No, nothing from favorite memory. I think I already said it.
Yeah, we covered a lot of them. I was going to also bring up the Terrell Davis being blind and still being in there. Of course, the Super Bowls, but let's move on a little bit. You don't always get to win the Super Bowl. You don't always get to put up tons of points versus Tony Romo and the Cowboys. Do you have a worst memory being a Broncos fan?
Well, apart from the 3 disasters of Super Bowls, yeah, anytime the Raiders beat us is annoying, for sure. And although like Gruden as a coach, I think he's a great coach, and I preferred him. But I don't like him because he's a Raider, and he's been a Raider more than once. But yeah, being beaten by the Raiders.
The Raiders.
Yeah, the Raiders.
That sums it all.
I can't.
But I'm trying to think of a specific game or moment.
The Raiders.
Yeah.
That was. I don't know. There've been a lot of disappointing moments. I'm forever an optimist, as I say. If there's time on the clock, we have a chance to win it. And I'll look at games and go, yeah, if we'd have caught that, but obviously we didn't catch it. We dropped it because we were shit.
Mm-hmm.
But just the musical chairs of quarterbacks that have gone in. They, the only way we won was because we rented Peyton Manning.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just disappointing. I don't know. I don't know whether Drew Lock's it for the Broncos.
I agree with that.
He's another guy that does some great things. And you talked about Romo ending the game with an interception.
Mm-hmm.
That's been Drew Lock. You think, oh great, now we've got the ball back. We just need to drive down the field, get a touchdown, and then he throws a stupid pass. It might be because he's young, but that seems to be the history of the Broncos since between Elway and Peyton, and between Peyton and whoever's going to be the next Broncos quarterback that'll win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, you probably wished more than me, but I really wanted to see Desean Watson end up there. I mean, that division probably would have had the best quarterback situation, and with your weapons, not only at tight end and wide receiver, it's just I think that would have been a good spot for him.
Did I just hear bad news about Desean Watson today?
If
Which
you've
one?
been listening to the news
I
the
heard
last
on,
couple
like
weeks,
another 5 women or something.
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
So to me, we heard a lot of trades and talk about Russell Wilson moving, but we didn't hear many teams reaching out about him. And to me, of course, we know the NFL is always a couple weeks ahead of us with news and things like that. And it kind of seems like teams might have got a little bit of this information coming in before we did, because I didn't hear one team being like, yeah, we're just like
We're still
Chicago with Russell Wilson. Yeah, we're going to put 3 first-rounders on the table. We're going to do – it was pretty silent. So
I would take Russell Wilson in a heartbeat.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I totally agree with that one as well. Yeah.
I think you'd have to give up both your edge rushers for him, though, too. Both Chubb and Miller.
Oh, I would do that, too. I mean, Miller was pretty much on his way out.
Yeah.
They just signed him. They just picked up his year.
Yep.
Yeah, I heard they restructured his contract, so that's actually really good.
Yeah,
Yep.
If he comes back to 3/4 of what he can be, he's a threat.
Oh.
And he's the kind of guy that I would like to see retire Bronco.
Yeah,
but
keep him there.
Yeah, Bradley Chubb solid. He's not the new Von Miller, for sure.
Yeah, just a couple more worse memories. I don't want to twist the knife or anything, but
worse memories.
I wanted to bring up one because you saved the Dallas Cowboys in one situation, which you probably hate that you did this. 2016, the Cowboys were about to draft Paxton Lynch, but you guys stood in there, and we ended up getting Dak Prescott in the 5th round. And to me, that might have been my last year where I really watched quarterbacks coming out of the draft, just because I felt like he did have all the talent, but something about quarterbacks, well, we know what it is. Quarterbacks, it's so mental. It's so much of the smarts that, he just didn't succeed for so many reasons. I mean, you guys got lucky and got out of the contract when he went doon to the Texans and things like that, but that was a brutal one.
I think I'd erased him from my memory because I was trying to think of, who do we draft as quarterbacks, and then there's Paxton Lynch.
Yeah.
But, how many, if you go into the draft, I mean, it's hard to drop the ball in the first round, but we've done it. We've done it with quarterback with Tebow and Paxton Lynch. And then the guy that I thought might be a surprise pick was what do they call him, the last player in the draft,
Mr. Irrelevant.
Yeah, they picked up Kelly.
Oh yeah.
And then but there was a reason why no one drafted him, because he has a bit of a head case.
Yep.
But he played some preseason games and looked okay. Trevor Siemian was he's the kind of guy that would be a good backup for a Gary Kubiak type, because he wasn't that bad, but not a starter. But yeah, in the draft, disappointments. You can't say disappointed about Von Miller. Bradley Chubb, I don't know whether they needed Bradley Chubb.
I know Shane Ray.
Shane Ray.
Yep.
Yeah. But
yeah, Shane Ray.
Do you know who Gary Vaynerchuk is?
Yeah.
So Gary Vaynerchuk, he's a big Jets fan.
Yeah.
And he has always said if he owned the Jets, he would draft 3 quarterbacks every year.
Yeah.
And I kind of, I'm kind of that way. I mean, just that's where the NFL's won with a quarterback. So if you have to draft a quarterback in the 1st round and the 2nd round and let them battle it out, maybe you get one. Maybe you don't. But
Washington kind of did that when they did RG3, Kirk Cousins. Yeah. RG3, of course, was lightning his 1st year, maybe his 2nd year, but then Kirk Cousins ended up being the guy that took over and really was more steady.
Yeah, RG3 had the big knee injury, though, didn't he?
Yeah, he had multiple.
Yeah. But the biggest disappointment, I don't know if it comes down to one game, because they've been like Denver have been a fairly disappointing team to follow in the past, post Peyton Manning. It is their inability to get a stable quarterback. Like Drew Lock shows promise, but you go with Drew Lock, you go with Paxton Lynch. How many big, tall, statuesque type quarterbacks are successful in the league right now? I mean, the last one the guy that I can think of is the most successful is Ben Roethlisberger.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I can't think of anybody that's that, like 6'4".
Yeah.
Just built
stand in the pocket and sling it.
Yeah. So, definitely the quarterback position, I think it has changed.
Definitely. We see Kyler Murray and these smaller guys, Lamar Jackson. I mean, they're having so much more success just playing a different type of football than what we're used to.
I mean, the other two that were drafted, Jared Goff and the guy in Philadelphia,
Carson
Wentz. I mean, they've started off well, but they're not performing too well now.
Yeah.
I know they've had injuries, but
the last one I was thinking of was Matt Ryan. I kind of feel like he's that guy. Just drop back, throw the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been to a Super Bowl. I know he hasn't had as much success at all as Ben Roethlisberger, but
no.
yeah,
I don't know whether he's more like, I think there's I don't know how to word it, but Matt Ryan is more polished. I mean, he can throw that missile 50 yards, it's not just all strength.
Yeah.
There's some, guys like Matt Ryan, the guy, going back, Warren Moon, who came out of the Canadian Football League. He was a guy, I love those guys that can stand there and just throw missiles. I guess, someone like Tom Brady would be like that as well now. He has that ability. Drew Brees, those kind of quarterbacks. There's still a place, but the guy that just stands in the pocket and waits and it's just going to get nailed these days.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into your future expectations. Let's see if we could help fix your Denver Broncos coming up. I mean, draft wise, you have the number 9 overall pick. I'm not sure that a quarterback will fall to you guys there, but is there somewhere? You have 3 picks in the top 100. Is there a direction you kind of want to go there?
Yeah, well, I have, it's hard. There's been no real college football to say, really, that I've seen on TV this past year. I didn't really follow it because of COVID. So it's hard to know who's out there, but I think the Broncos are sold on Lock for at least another year. And I think they'll probably look into getting a quality backup, or, if they could have got Desean Watson, when he was available and would have been playing, maybe someone to at least battle for that starting position.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to go quarterback. I think that we've got a pretty good receiving core.
Really good.
I like Jerry Jeudy. Cortland Sutton was injured last year. When he comes back, if he comes back full health, he's their number 1 threat.
Patrick is solid.
Tight end. Fant's a good tight end.
Yeah.
I think they need some studs on the offensive line.
You guys re-signed Garrett Bowles, but I think you guys can improve around him as well.
Yeah. I mean, if there was someone available that's going to be, your left tackle. I mean, Bowles is good, but I don't think he's a player that I thought he was going to be. But if you get a stud left tackle, then you take him, that's going to be a Pro Bowler for 10, 12 years. I don't know if there's anybody out there that can do that.
Yeah, I mean, there's somebody in the draft. You got Rashawn Slater, Penei Sewell, Darryl Shaw. I mean, there's some players in the draft that you guys can go after as far as left tackle goes. So you guys may be in that market there. So, I mean.
Yeah, the running back, they've gone with Gordon, and they just picked up a guy from Boone, isn't it?
Yep.
Mike Boone from the Vikings.
So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, if there was a speed is the key now.
He's not really a speed guy.
No, he isn't.
Yeah.
and Nor's
Melvin Gordon.
Nor's Melvin Gordon, a speed guy. You
Yeah.
know, if you can have that, like it used to be in the day, you had your, like when Sammy Winder was playing in the original Broncos, you had him and a guy named Gerald Wilhite. They called them third down backs, but now they've become, they could run the ball, catch the ball out of the backfield. If they could get a guy like a third down back with breakaway speed that you can just dink the pass to. They did draft someone last year who got injured, a wide receiver.
Oh.
I can't remember his name.
Oh yeah. He was the slot type of guy.
Slot guy. So I think they're set at receiver. So
They got two wide receivers last year.
If I was the Broncos, I would look for defensive backs. All the way, just
KJ Hamler.
Yeah.
That's what
KJ Hamler was a good.
Yep. Judy and Hamler to pair with Sutton and that's a good receiver, Sutton and Fant. So
you got Jerry Judy, you've got Fant, you've got a couple of other tight ends that are pretty solid there. I think their receiving core's pretty good.
Pretty sure you guys still have Tim Patrick, who's a solid number 3 receiver.
Yeah, Patrick as well. Yeah.
Yep.
I think that you go offensive line if you're going offense, and then you go defensive back.
Speaking of,
or if there's a stud middle linebacker out there.
Yeah. Speaking of defensive backs, I think you guys picked up one of the best ones in free agency, Kyle Fuller. I know he's only on a 1-year deal, but he's a great player. And you also got Ronald Darby, who, he's a solid player too, but Kyle Fuller's just in another tier. And I think definitely, as in bringing players back, you guys might have did better than anyone. Von Miller, Shelby Harris, Justin Simmons re-signed. I'm even hearing that you might bring back Kareem Jackson on another short deal, but I think you guys expected to lose at least one of those guys, and you got to bring them back.
I think that the Denver Broncos core is there, and I'm pretty sure that their offense was probably the youngest offense in the league at the time, last year. So they've got another year. I think you'll look at them maybe bringing in a couple of free agents with experience to help with the offense, because you never know with rookies. It's flipping a coin. Even the number 1 pick now.
Yeah, it's 50-50.
But I think they need to bolster up that defense. And then gamble on that young offense is just going to keep progressing.
Yeah. Yep. As far as coaching and ownership and things like that, how do you feel about Vic Fangio? Do you think he'll be back after this year? I mean, he's one of those guys that I think could be on the hot seat moving forward, especially if there's not much success this coming up year.
I think if Denver are slow out of the gate and go 1-4, 1-5, I think we might see Fangio replaced.
Yeah. Early in the year. I'd never like to see that.
If you go 1-4, 1-5, you're not making the playoffs.
Yeah.
Unless something changes, and that might be a coaching change.
Yeah.
So I would think it would be if we start off that badly, I don't expect us to, then Fangio will be gone. I'm glad Elway stepped down from his role as kind of general manager and handed over to someone else.
I thought it was a promotion. I
Sorry?
thought it was a promotion.
It was he stepped away from that and
I love the way he phrased that.
Yeah.
But again, it's like if I was Elway, I would be looking right now. I mean, and I think they probably are. Who are the coaching prospects out there that's going to be the next coach of the Broncos? Fangio's not going to be there forever unless they go on and make the playoffs. If they don't make the playoffs next year, I think Fangio will be gone.
I agree.
And I think that I'll be happy if they went 10-6, that would be a good season.
Yeah.
If they go anything better than that, that's just a miracle, I think.
10-6 could squeak you into the playoffs too. I mean, the Chiefs are there, but we got these extra playoff spots now, so that could be that could
I think
squeeze you in.
10-6, you're in with a wild card, I think.
Yeah.
But 10-6 will be a good season.
Yeah, I mean, I know that our offensive coordinator now, who's just recently promoted, Mike McDaniel, grew up a ball boy actually for the Denver Broncos. So I know that he'd, be chomping at the bits to be the next head coach there. I mean, anything like Duran was talking about earlier in that Shanahan coaching tree is definitely holds high value. So, and like we were talking about earlier as well, people going younger. Mike McDaniel's fairly young. I mean, having him in there, especially, I don't know if it counts, but I know that his father is of African-American descent. So it could be counted as a minority. I'm not 100% sure. But, I know that he'd be jumping at the bits and coming at off that head coach over there at Denver Broncos for sure.
Yeah, Fangio was, was an interesting choice.
I love that guy, man. I mean, I just seen that guy's defense, old school blue collar guys that just want to get to work, and that's something that he preaches on. Super old school guy for sure.
Yeah, nowadays I think in most sports it's being able to coaches can coach. They're at that level. They can put in systems, and if you've got the quality players that'll do it, I think it's managing egos. Like you need someone that can manage egos. The hardcore days of Tom Landry and people like that, where it's my way or the highway, don't work anymore. The players have so much power that you need to be able to manage the locker room, and and I think that'll be Fangio's biggest challenge next year if they lose their first 2 games.
Yeah. Gee, anything else for coaches?
Nothing else for coaches. Nothing else for future expectations for me.
Yep, that about wraps it up for me as well.
All right, that wraps it up for us. Clive, go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you, what work you're working on, plug anything away. Go ahead.
Okay, therockspectrum.com. It's a podcast I'm working on. Nothing's out there yet, but it should be out there probably end of April. I should have some episodes up, and it's basically why we're fans of rock music, talking to people about how rock music has played an important part in their life. Pick an album, let's talk about it. So that, at the Rock Spectrum on Instagram, at the Rock Spectrum Facebook, and rockspectrum.com, therockspectrum.com. So it's been fun. I don't get to talk football in this detail with a lot of people. I'm a little bit rusty. And I'm glad that I knew stuff that you didn't know, because you're just too young enough not to know it.
Yeah, that was great.
But
no, man,
sorry, go ahead.
No, I appreciate it, man. I just wanted to say that. I mean, I'm glad you enlightened us, if anything.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to a good season. And I just looked up the drafts, just under a month away.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got to do my little research on, who we should be drafting, or who the so-called experts on the internet should be drafting. Do you guys do a mock draft?
We do.
I don't.
I do a lot, just because, I'm a big fan of the draft. So I look into these players. I ask even people who do it for a living, what they think. And, I get some responses. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. And, it's something fun I like to tinker around with. I like to think I'm a draft expert, even though I'm not. But, I watch these prospects like crazy for sure.
Yeah. I have an idea for you guys, though. You could have a Zoom call, get a representative from every team, and have a mock draft.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Do it a week before, and forget the 4 minutes on the clock and all that crap.
Yeah.
Come prepared with your list of your top 30 players, and or who you would pick, and go at it.
That'd be great. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
We got to get a sound key for the booze for Roger Goodell when he.
You just cut those little video clips out and insert them, with the first pick.
Hell yeah. Awesome. Well, again, thank you for joining us. I think that, we much appreciate your time. If you can stick around just a little bit after we sign off, that'd be great.
Yep.
For myself, I'm Gennaro. That's Duran. Duran, go and plug our work where they can find us. Go ahead.
Yeah, you can follow us on Spotify, YouTube, Twitter, everything at whywe'refans.com. And stay tuned. We're covering all these teams.